This story is said to have happened in the early 1970s in Mexico, in the southern state of Guerrero, in a town called Tropea. At that time, there was a small cantina, almost at the edge of the small town, very close to the main road. There worked some of the prettiest girls in the area, all of them from Guerrero area. This cantina was very popular, and many people came to this place, including police and military. It is said that one rainy night around 10 p.m., there were few customers and they were about to close. It was raining very hard with lots of lightning and the wind blew mercilessly. But suddenly, the door flew open and everyone saw a man standing in the doorway. After a few seconds, and once the shock from the noise passed, one of the girls told the stranger they were about to close. The man, without saying a word, slowly entered and stopped in front of the girl who had spoken to him. This man was wearing tall leather boots up to the knees, very shiny and clean, despite the mud outside. Yet they were completely spotless. He wore cowboy pants, a leather belt, a long-sleeved shirt, hat, and boots. Everything black, except for the belt buckle and the buttons on the shirt, which were gold. The strange thing was, he didn't seem wet from the rain. He was very tall and slim, with very pale skin, and carried a whip coiled at his waist. This stranger imposed respect and fear with his presence. Everyone was nervous and afraid of this unknown man. The girl who had spoken to him earlier nervously told him again they were about to close, to which he replied a deep voice, "I heard you the first time." Not knowing what to say, the girl stayed quiet. Then the stranger asked, "How much do you all earn in one night, including the owner and the whole business?" Not knowing how to respond, they went to get the owner of the cantina, whom I'll simply refer to as the madam. Upon entering the room, the madam saw this strange figure standing, watching the few remaining clients hurriedly finishing their drinks and getting ready to leave. After a few seconds of observing him, she said, "Good evening, sir, welcome, but please excuse us. We're about to close." The visitor replied, "Yes, I want you to close for tonight and have these men leave. But you will continue working until dawn. I want you and your women to serve me during this time, and I will pay you very well." He said all of this while showing gold coins, which he gave as an advance. The madam and the girls, upon seeing the money, were encouraged to attend to the stranger. Obeying his instructions, they dismissed the clients who left without saying a word, and they locked the door. That's all the clients knew. After they left, nothing else was heard. What I'll tell you next is the testimony of one of the girls who stayed that night. This only became known long afterward. None of them wanted to speak, as 3 of the girls committed suicide days after that night. The madam never spoke about it. She avoided the questions and got very distressed when asked. Remembering that night filled her with tremendous fear. It was the last time the cantina ever opened. She shut it down forever and moved on to other work. This is what the girl said. That night, after closing the cantina, we were left alone with the stranger. He asked us for the most expensive drinks, and for each one he paid us with gold coins. All of us formed a line, and he gave each of us 3 gold coins. In total, we were 11 women, including the madame. For every song we danced to, he gave us the same amount, but his only condition was that all the money he paid us had to remain there. He drank, he danced, and even got intimate with 3 girls, the same ones who later ended up taking their own lives. At times, he sat by the bar and asked us questions about the town, about the whereabouts of some people from there. It even felt like he knew the people he was asking about. But he also asked strange things that made no sense to me. Sometimes I didn't understand what he was saying. His questions were nonsense. He would notice and just laugh, mocking us. It must have been around 3:30 in the morning when I noticed that the 4 large copper pots were full of gold coins. The madame stood by silently, watching and with a worried look. I asked her what was wrong. She said, trembling, "Have you noticed that the pots are full of gold?" I smiled and happily answered yes, saying I was very pleased. But she replied in a low voice, "And how do you think he's doing this? He can't possibly be carrying so much money in his pants pockets. Also, look, no matter how much he drinks, the alcohol doesn't affect him at all, and he hasn't gone to the restroom since he arrived." That terrified me. I didn't know who he was. I told the madam she was right. He would just reach into his pocket and pull out handfuls of gold coins to pay all of us. Moments later, the madam asked who had brought out the pots from the kitchen, but I had no idea what to say. Then she told me in a shaky voice that the man there with us was the devil. I almost peed myself hearing that. At that moment, we realized he was watching us. He asked, "What are you whispering about over there? The party is here. Come to me." I was dying of fear. The madam told me to bring more tequila to the table, and so I did. And again, he pulled out gold coins and paid all of us. I didn't want to accept the money anymore, but the party continued a bit longer. Around 5 a.m., he said, "It's time for me to leave. I really enjoyed being here. I will return for you and take you to a very special place." As soon as he finished saying that, the door opened again, just like the first time. But this time, there was a massive horse waiting, completely still. The animal seemed to have fire in its eyes and smoke coming from its nostrils. Then the smell of sulfur filled the air. The stranger stood up and said, "Remember, I will come back for you. You are already mine." He walked out, grinning mockingly, and mounted the horse. But as he did, we clearly saw how his legs grew to match the horse's height, so he only had to lift his right leg and was mounted effortlessly. Then the horse took off at an impossibly fast gallop, and we noticed its hooves threw sparks as it began to run. We were left speechless, standing at the door, watching the rider disappear into the darkness. Breaking the silence, the madam said, "Girls, you're all very drunk and tired. Stay here to sleep. When you wake up, we'll split the money." My companions and I were paralyzed by fear from what we had witnessed. We didn't want to go outside, so we agreed to sleep there with the madam. Around 1 p.m., I heard her wake up, and I got up too. The 3 girls who had been with that man said they hadn't slept and felt very sick. They just wanted their share of the money and to go home to rest. We all gathered in front of the pots to take out the gold. But there were no gold coins inside. What we found was horse manure and that same horrible smell of sulfur coming out of all the pots. Seeing that, we were terrified. We began to cry, scream, and some started to pray. The madam confirmed to us all it had been the devil who was with us. She began telling us what she had already noticed during the night, that it was too much money to be carried in pockets, that the alcohol didn't affect him, and many other things that weren't normal for a human being. After that, each of us went home. The madam stayed, since she lived there. We never worked again, and that cantina was never opened again. Days later, I found out that the girls who had been with him had all taken their own lives. They died within days of each other, and nothing more was ever known about that place. They swear that this story is true, and it truly happened. What do you think? Did the devil really visit this small cantina in Mexico?